The Norwegian seems to be clinging onto his job by a thread, but there are reasons why United are remaining patient in their next managerial pursuit. What a week it's been for Manchester United supporters, as I'm sure many of you would agree with me that I'm surprised that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer hasn't been sacked. I don't mean that in a nasty or mean way, but the mood around the club has been somber and I genuinely thought United's hierarchy were going to push the panic button. Instead, it seems they're quite relaxed about the situation. Men Sport understands Solskjaer is still on borrowed time as United manager and, although it looks unlikely to turn things around, the club are yet to identify an obvious replacement should they decide to make a change. Many United supporters mutually agree that Solskjaer has taken the club as far as he can, but as long as he remains in a job, I'll still support him and try to enjoy the ride. Solskjaer remains in a job for now, but a lot of people are wondering why. So, our United fan brand writer, Ole Gunnar, has given us 3 logical reasons as to why Solskjaer hasn't been sacked as manager of Manchester United. This feels like quite an obvious one, especially as the club rejected Antonio Conte when he was ready and waiting for the job. It's fair to say that I think United are scarred from the Jose Mourinho days. Yes, Antonio Conte isn't Mourinho, but there has been a history of fallouts with the board. Some of his previous clubs, like Chelsea and Inter Milan. It's been reported that United's preferred candidates are Brendan Rodgers, Mauricio Pochettino and Erik ten Hag because they offer more stability than a so-called short-term fix like Conte. The problem is that none of those managers are gettable midway through the season. I know some might say Manchester United can get who they want, but let's be real here. Loyalty is a big thing in football. Managers won't want to give up on a project midway through the season. It's harder than you think. There's been talk of Ralf Rangnick coming in as an interim, but he would want a lot of control and a future position on the board. Does United really want that? As much as some may disagree, I don't think the club want to tread down that path. Personally, I'd bring in an interim and wait until the preferred managers are available at the end of the season. It'll be interesting to see what United do if results don't improve. For now though, the lack of options means Solskjaer is still in a job too. Financial reasons again. This may anger a few United supporters, but rightly or wrongly, Ed Woodward handed Solskjaer a 3-year contract extension at the start of the 21/22 season. What does this mean? Well, if United were to sack the 48-year-old, it would cost them around $7 million to get rid of him alone, plus the expenses of sacking his entire coaching staff. On top of that, if United wanted to bring in one of their preferred candidates midway through the season, it would mean they'd have to buy out a manager's contract. Erik ten Hag would be the cheapest, but I don't think he'd leave Ajax midway through a season. Rodgers and Pochettino would cost a lot, and on top of the finances needed to sack Solskjaer and his coaching staff, you could be looking at around a $30 million overall cost to make a change. When United have brought in new managers, they've done so on the cheapest basis. David Moyes' Everton contract expired in the summer. United signed him. Louis van Gaal had already announced he'd be stepping down after the 2014 World Cup before he signed a contract at Old Trafford. Jose Mourinho was already out of work after being sacked by Chelsea and Solskjaer was manager of Molde. It would have been very cheap to get him out of his contract. I firmly believe that money shouldn't matter in situations like this because United are financially wealthy, but you do have to see it from a business point of view and, to put it simply, the Glazers are ultimately business people. 3. The Glazers' history of sacking managers. Just take a minute and think back to when the Glazers have sacked managers. David Moyes was relieved of his duties when it was mathematically impossible to reach the top 4. Louis van Gaal went through a rut in the winter of 2015 which saw United fall behind in the top 4 race, but there was a lack of managerial options at the time, so waited until the summer to bring in more